All right. I want to start off by saying that I don't think I've missed a game as much as I've missed Bloodhunt in my entire life. And yeah, I feel like it was just the perfect topic to make a vid on because this game really was special. It had everything. Let's talk about it. So, Bloodhunt released on April 27th, 2022 on both PC and PS5. So, it already had crossplay on release. And I remember because I was waiting for this game to release since I played some alpha tests or beta tests, whatever it was beforehand. And I knew how good the game was already. And I was just ready for it to fully drop. So when it dropped, I was there and god damn, it was fun. We had everything we needed from a battle royale hero shooter and more. And then it all fell apart. So we got to start with the positives, right? We had clans which were divided very well because we had clans and archetypes. So you had characters that were in a specific clan and you had two abilities per character. One being the clan ability and the other one being the archetype ability, which made it that you kind of you knew you could tell which character or from which clan they were. You couldn't necessarily instantly tell though if they were, let's say, Brute or Vandal, if they were in Bruja, or if they were a Sab or a Prowler. But you could tell from the way their skins looked, even though you could kind of, I guess, game the game by having skins that looked a little bit odd or looked a little bit more like another type. Apart from Nosferatu, you already knew because they look like pure zombies, which makes sense based on their lore. Anyways, so we had a lot of powers, and this game had movement. And when I say it had movement, it had so much movement. It had horizontal movement. It had vertical movement. I think I've never played until now. I've never played another game apart from maybe Hyperscape. I've never played another game that had this much vertical movement, and it was really well made. You could wall hop, and it felt good. And because it's based on Prague's rooftops, the whole map, the streets are really thin and the buildings were really high. So you had to choose whether you wanted to play kind of a low ground position and try to get yourself into a store or something like that, or you wanted to go and play a high ground position, but then you're kind of exposed because everywhere up top it's a bunch of rooftops. And unless you're on the highest of roofs, you most likely have someone that might be able to see you. The whole map, the way it was designed, and then the other thing that made it great is the zones, right? We had completely random zones. Zones weren't circles like they are, for example, in Fortnite, or triangles or squares or whatever it is. It didn't just close in a certain distance. The zones were completely random. I think I might put this screenshot on stream. On stream, I remember the nuke zone I had. I think I had this kind of twice, but the one that was really looked like a nuke, I think I posted that one on Twitter. The game was so good, and I'm kind of yapping at this point, right? But the reality is we had the maps, the zones and the zones that were really well made and really original for battle royales, especially at the time, because we only had regular, Apex, Fortnite, and those type of battle royales that are good, but they get redundant. And the thing about Bloodhunt is because those zones were random, you could really get anything as a zone. You could get a zone that is very thin and long, but you could also get a more standard circle, or you could get a weird form, and it made it that your positioning mattered even more. And then on top of that, the combat was nothing short of really, really good when it worked. You had both ranged and melee. I am not that much of a fan of melee. People know this at this point, but still, I love the way the game was built, and the melee gave you lifesteal, and you had enough movement to really deal with melee most of the time. So it was fine. And then you had ways to get health back by eating civilians, which I feel like is really fucking funny. But apart from that, you had obviously to worry about if you shoot a civilian or accidentally shoot a civilian or eat a civilian in front of another civilian, you get blood hunted. And then there was that whole time where you're under 30 or 60 seconds, I don't remember exactly how much time it was, of time where everybody on the map can see you. And then there was a bunch of kind of Easter egg-ish, or I guess things that you've realized once you get a little bit better, a little bit more knowledgeable about the game, and you have a little bit more game sense. But you had things where if somebody shoots next to a civilian on the map, it just shows kind of a little circle that gets that shows an area where there's been a shot there. So you know someone is there. So when you want to play aggressive or W key or whatever, you had ways to do it. You had ways to find people and ways to kind of gauge where people were. And I feel like that just made game sense so much more. Your map was so important, and you didn't only have to be mechanically good, because it was a very mechanical game, but you also had to have a lot of knowledge on the game to be able to rotate and win and play against, especially on, I guess, the higher end of the lobbies. And I don't want to make this video too long, so I'll just go straight to the other things that were bad, because there was definitely bad in this game. And I want to say, first off, the game was made in Unreal Engine 4, and I think a lot of performance and game issues and those type of bugs could be fixed potentially if it was made in Unreal Engine 5 instead. But at the time, I guess like UE4 is not a bad option, or wasn't a bad option, and I'm 100% sure I can find games that are pretty optimized in UE4. I just felt like that was one of the main things. The game ran poorly on most systems. You had weird things where if you had a good graphic card, the game would actually run worse than if you had a mid-range graphic card. It was weird. And then your high quality settings ran better on certain cards than other lower quality settings. It just made optimization from the player's perspective way harder, because you don't really know what you have to do to make the game run smoothly. So not only did you have a lot of, crashes and frame drops, but you had a lot of game bugs. And now I want to get into the reload bug, because this is potentially one of the worst bugs I've seen in my life of playing games. The reload bug was horrible, because Bloodhunt is a shooter. It's a shooter. And you had a bug that made it that you could not reload your weapon. So what can you do if you can't reload your weapon? Well, you just die, because you had reload bug, and there was no way of really like fixing it. People found small fixes and do this and do that, but the reality is sometimes you would just get reload bug, and you can't do anything about that. You cannot do anything about reload bug. It was horrible. And then you had, some buffs and nerfs that they didn't want to do, or Shark Mob didn't want to do, because they didn't want to listen to the community. And that was so frustrating. And then you had, for example, the queue times, which slowly, as the player base starting to get, lower and lower, you had all these game modes. And I remember a lot of people saying we should just, make it that we cycle game modes, or at least I know I said that. And never did they ever cycle any game modes. They just let that there was solos, duos, ranked, and all these game modes. And then you would just not be able to find any lobbies, because there's not enough players to support all these different game modes. As if you just force that, during, I don't know, 1 to 6 p.m. it's solos and duos only, and then blah, blah, blah. And like, you just make it that, you have solos and one other mode, and you don't run anything, or you run ranked on a separate time, where maybe you only run ranked between these hours, kind of like Mini Royale does it, which I think is a great way of making sure that you'll get queues during a set time. And players that want to play, for example, a competitive ranked game modes, they'll adapt and they'll be like, okay, well, if there's only ranked from 5 to 9 p.m., well, I'll get on this game at 5 to 9 p.m. so I can get good games. And you'll get queues, because all of those other competitive players are going to make sure they're there between 5 to 9 p.m. It just made sense. And then you had other things, for example, the custom lobbies that we never got. Now, this was more of a personal thing. I feel like I really wanted custom/private lobbies for tournaments and competitives. And I know that some other people also wanted and asked for it, but never got that as well, which kind of made, running tournaments a little bit harder, because you always had to base it off, either a kill race, and then people would run scrims, which I played a lot and were really fun. But again, it would be based off queue sniping. And so you don't always get in the same lobby, or you don't always get in the good lobby, and queue sniping brings a bunch of other issues. Now, to be fair, that's how most competitive games early on, even like Fortnite, for example, the beginning of competitive scene was queue sniping at first, because that's just what you can do when there's no custom games available. But I just feel like making a custom game, like a custom lobby available, even if you give it to just a few people, is so good. Just give it to some tournament hosters so that people that want to host tournaments are able to get these lobbies. Don't give it to everyone if you don't want to, but at least give us the option, which I don't understand why, right? Why would we not have that option? Anyways, because of all of this and all of this bad communication, poor performance of the game ended up dying out. And on May 15th of 2023, this is a little bit over a year only after they released the game, they ceased development. This game lasted maybe 6 months in glory, and I pretty much played it out up until, you know, a few months before they stopped development. And it was a sad thing because, like I said, the game felt so good and everything around it just did not want to work out. The community, though, was ready for this game, and until this date, I still see so many people that randomly from day to day just tweet out or make videos or comment about the fact that they missed this game, and it just makes me sad. But hey, we can't do anything, and the least we can say is the servers are still operational. You still can load up Bloodhunt and play, and I'm thinking, you know, with maybe a little bit of luck and I don't know, someone that really misses the game or someone that really wants kind of the game to have a second coming, maybe, just maybe, we get something, a tournament or something like that, that kind of brings back people. With all that said, let me know what y'all think in the comments. Likes are appreciated. Peace.